The Human Optimization Podcast is proudly brought to you by Vicon Supplements, where quality meets sustainability. Vicon's all-natural supplements are handcrafted and sustainably produced in Canada, bringing you products that nourish both your well-being and our planet. Visit viconsupplements.com today and be a part of a greener, healthier future.
Are you ready to embark on a journey to the best version of you? Join me, Lisa Pitel-Killah, as I dive deep into the world of hair tissue mineral analysis and functional medicine with fellow experts, and guide you on the path of unlocking your full potential. As a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, I'm on a mission to reach high-performance professionals from around the world to help you minimize tiring symptoms, maximize health, and gain unstoppable energy. This is the Human Optimization Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. I am hoping that you are ready for today's guest. You are going to love this conversation. So let me introduce you to Dr. Richard Grossman. He has over 40 years of experience in acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and natural health care, and 2 decades immersed in the healing traditions of the Amazonian shamanism. Richard Grossman has dedicated his life to helping others transform trauma into personal growth. His work spans continents and consciousness, blending science and spirit, deeply grounded and in practical ways. Richard is the author of Trust and Forgive, the Medicine of Your Life, and we're going to dive into that today. A reflective guide built on half a century of clinical insights, ceremonial leadership, and lived exploration. Far from prescriptive, his message invites listeners to return to joy, peace, and inner truth. Drawing from his background in sound healing, plant medicine, and traditional Asian wisdom, Richard reframes trauma not as a permanent wound, but as a catalyst for awakening. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm
Pleasure to
so
be here.
excited. Well, I'm so excited that you are here to share all of this amazing information with us.
I have to
And
say, a half a century sounds so scary.
right? It's like, what?
How did that happen?
How did that happen? And how did I miss it? Right? It goes by so quickly. It doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. Tell us, I mean, you can share any part, but there's a lot to talk about today. But I always say there's a reason you're here, right? There's a reason that and there's a background that came with that. Share a little about that journey with us.
Well, I think it was Bill Clinton who said, if you hit 50 and you haven't written a book, you have to write a book. And
Sounds like a good idea.
I didn't do that, of course. I waited till I was a bit older. And, so what I've recognized in my life is that I've had an utterly amazing life. I've had experiences most people dream about and unusual experiences. Some of them were quite confronting. Some of them were very scary. But I've had these experiences that few people have had. And along with a tremendous amount of working one-on-one and in groups with other people to help them through their stuff, to help them learn about their heart, really, to help them learn about why what they think they are is not necessarily what they are. And so I got to a place in my life where it was like, I need to share this. I'm not going to be here forever. I've acquired some wisdom I want to put out into the world. And so that's what I'm doing now. That's why I'm on this podcast, in fact.
Amazing. Well, we're happy you're here. So I want to dive a little bit into the work that you do, obviously, with regards to trauma. Because a lot of us have been through traumatic experiences, right? Different experiences. The way that we handle them is different by each individual, but you look at this more rather than a wound or something that you need to just get through, but you look at it as a doorway. How did that really shape the work that you're doing?
Well, having gone through a fairly severe trauma when I was a child, that became the lens and the filters through which I viewed reality, unaware that I was doing that. And at some point I became aware of it, mainly through the use of psychedelic plants and other
Mm-hmm.
substances.
Mm-hmm.
I had what I would call a minor awakening.
Mm.
Some people call it a major awakening. I would say it was the beginning of a journey
Yeah.
where I realized that analogy here, I had put on a backpack when I was a kid that was already filled with a lot of bricks from the trauma. And
Yeah.
as I went through my life, I kept on putting more and more bricks in that backpack. It was one of those magical Mary Poppins things where you can put an infinite amount of stuff in them. So it got very heavy. And the thing about carrying a heavy load is that after a while, you don't realize you're carrying it anymore. It becomes part of who you are.
Right.
It becomes, the tortoise doesn't know it has a shell on its back. Maybe it does. I don't know. But, so I was carrying this backpack full of bricks, each one of which was an event or a trauma or a fear or something that was all building upon the original experience.
Right.
So with the aid of plant medicines, I was able to unwind much of these things, take out most of these bricks, if not all of them, and eventually take off the backpack because for what I was using it for, I didn't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of the experiences I had would involve what could be called past life experiences. And I'm not going to call them that because a part of me doesn't believe in that. A part of me does.
Mm.
It's an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they would involve, tracing back trauma through generations, through tribe, through humanity, through inhumanity especially,
Yeah.
and getting to a place in myself where I realized it wasn't about picking each one of these traumas apart. It wasn't about understanding the traumas. It wasn't about understanding the events of the past, in fact. It was about viewing them through the eyes of the heart, through the eyes of love. And with love, with fierce love,
Mm-hmm.
with strong love, strong intention, call it, I was able to allow the past to become the past,
Mm.
to where it no longer was haunting me in the present. And the funny thing that happened with that is that the future, which was full of anxieties and what am I going to be when I grow up, still
We're still both sitting here going,
sometimes.
what is that going to be?
Yeah, I know. Um, that became less heavy too.
Right.
And the learning for me will be forevermore how to bring my consciousness, bring my life, bring my attention, bring my focus more and more into the present.
Mm.
It doesn't mean not planning for the future. Obviously, that's important. But it means not living in the fears or expectations of the future, weighted down by the bricks in the backpack of the past.
Right.
The little story in my book, I'll get to the punchline, but the punchline of it is, what's the greatest sin? The greatest sin is guilt, because guilt can't fly, and God wants us to fly.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
God being the love within, not some dude up there pulling strings.
True.
So it's
And
about freedom, really. It's about freedom. And would I have gone on that journey without the traumas? No,
mm,
I wouldn't have. And am I, grateful for the journey? Absolutely. It's taking me to places I never would have gone on, never would have gone to, never would have experienced.
yeah.
So that's where, for me, it was an opportunity. It was a learning. Would I choose to do it again? Probably not. But
So sometimes that, right? We always say there are lessons that we have to learn, even maybe if we don't want to do
have
that.
to learn. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me about, because so in both traditional Chinese medicine, but also plant medicines, you've done so much work. And you talked a little bit about the healing process there, but what are some of the ways that you found that those two modalities, if you will, really contributed to your particular healing or how you work with people?
Good question. Chinese medicine was about taking my viewpoint and paradigm of reality, particularly in concerning the body and philosophy, and going on a multi-year intensive process of learning how to see the world in a different way. We in the Northwest, I would say,
Hmm.
have a certain way of viewing reality. We're materialists for the most part. A brick is a brick in the backpack.
Right.
Whatever we see is what we believe. And so going into Chinese medicine, it was suddenly I'm confronted with the idea of what is qi? What is qi?
Right. Hmm.
What is yin? What is yang? Not from the cliche thing that most people know, yin is female, yang is male,
Right.
but going really into learning how to see and perceive reality through the interplay of those two energies, and then seeing how that reflects in the body in causing health and causing disease.
Hmm.
Tremendously complex thing to learn, really.
Yeah.
Um, and then learning how to manipulate those energies for people that came to me for help using acupuncture needles, Chinese herbs, diet, nutrition, whatever else I was using
Hmm.
at the
Hmm.
time. So that was a phenomenal learning, and I was fortunate enough to go to China and study there for 3 months as a
Amazing.
post grad.
Hmm.
It was a phenomenal experience to be in the land that originated these philosophies and to be in the land that originated that tremendously beautiful and incredible form of healing.
Hmm.
And it changed my life. That was like a big, big change in life. So after I graduated from acupuncture school, I was suddenly confronted with the fact that I think every healthcare practitioner gets to when they graduate and get licensed or certified, or whatever it is, licensed. And that is, there's somebody in front of me who needs help,
Yeah.
and they're asking me for help. And for somebody who's been a therapist for decades, that might become something that gets a little bit, you get used to it. But I've never really gotten used to it, I have to say, is that each time somebody's in front of me asking for help, I'm trying to be there for them 100% with a tabula rasa, with a blank mind, with an open
Hmm.
heart. So I graduate school, I'm confronted by patients. I'm not doing really well. I'm not doing really well, honestly. I got a very good reputation. I had a very successful practice,
Hmm.
but inside I was in a lot of pain.
Right.
And outside, I was still carrying that backpack full of bricks. So coincidentally, haha, a friend of mine, shortly after I graduated, gave me a call and said, I brought some ayahuasca from Peru. You should try this. I
Mm.
can guide you on this journey. In the book, he's called El Viejo. So I found myself sitting in a beautiful house up in the Santa Monica Mountains with a cup in front of me in my hand, which I drank. And that was, I call them in the book Pacarinas, the place where the purest of pure water comes out of the mountain.
Hmm.
First trickle that then can become a mighty river a little ways down. So that was the pakarina, also the turning point, the changing point in my life, where I went from having the understanding, which I so value, of Chinese medicine, of naturopathic medicine, of all of that, to exploring this inner world that was limitless
Hmm.
and that was full of ghosts and monsters and things that go bump in the night. And each one of them I needed to be with and learn the process of trusting and forgiving. And forgiveness, again, I want to make this clear because a lot of people hear forgiveness and they think, well, it means that you make it okay with the person who wounded you. And no, that's not what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness is releasing those tendrils that are trapping your heart from the experience and allowing the memories. Memory is a really important word here because whatever we're experiencing in the present that's of the past, we're experiencing only as a memory.
Yeah.
And allowing I call them the winds of time. It's, to wash away those traumas, those experiences into the non-reality that they actually are.
Right.
Because the experiences of the past are only memories. Memories are not real. Nobody's ever been able to take a memory out of their head and show it to me. So it's allowing the process of trust and forgiveness to wash away those places inside that are being held on to consciously and unconsciously, especially unconsciously,
Right.
allowing those things to no longer be part of the experience from which I'm experiencing life.
Hmm. Hmm. You said that there was a shift, right? And I know that plant medicine, right, has been around for a longer period of time than I can even fathom. But
Yeah.
I feel like some people in today's day and age might not even understand what that really means.
Yes.
What
Most
would you share on that, just to educate people a little bit about what that actually means?
Yeah, plant medicines, there's different qualities of plant medicine. There's
Hmm.
the chamomile tea we might drink before bedtime to get better sleep. There's the different plants that we might put on a wound to help it heal. There's plants we might take to numb pain.
Hmm.
Um, the morphine families, the opium families, even sometimes marijuana to numb pain. And then there's the plants that are, they call them master plants in the jungle, which means master, not master slave, but master being teacher.
Mm.
So they call them teacher plants. And these are plants that when you take them, they interface with the brain, with the neurological system, and somehow, somehow, and we're just beginning to scratch the surface as to the how here.
Hmm.
And I don't think we'll ever get there because there's a certain aspect of it that's magic, pure magic, in the best possible sense. Somehow they heal those parts of us, parts of the brain that are not functioning properly,
Hmm.
that are stuck. And they do it with sometimes fierce compassion, sometimes loving compassion, sometimes powerful compassion. But they have the ability to interface with us as a partner, as a teacher, sometimes as a friend, sometimes as a guru, sometimes as a um, enlightening experience.
Hmm.
So imagine, well, I was taking a short vacation in Hawaii once, and I was staying at a friend's house. Beautiful little traditional Hawaiian cabin on by the beach in Kauai, and It was a lovely house, lovely. Everything was perfect in it. The tchotchkes were arranged according to Fibonacci sequences and golden mean. It looked like to me anyway.
Hmm.
Everything was perfect in the house, and all the towels were folded just so everything was aesthetic and beautiful. One day, my last day there, I'm walking on the beach. I kicked a piece of coral and cut open my
Mm.
toe.
Hmm.
So I hobble back to the house and ask her if she has any Band-Aids. And she says, I think I might. And she doesn't even know that I use this story. One day she's going to find out. But she goes over into the hallway, and there's a locked cabinet there, unlocks the cabinet, opens it up, and every bit of organization and neatness and beauty and cleanliness that she had in her house, the exact opposite existed in that cabinet.
Oh my goodness.
and and so that as like I learned from everything I experienced, or I try to learn from everything I experience. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, how many people have such beautifully ordered lives?
Hmm.
Everything is right. They have the right car, they have the right house, they have the right spouse or partner, they have the right kids, they have the right education, or whatever it is. Maybe it's not all right, but their life is ordered. But everybody has this closet,
Right.
and
Hmm.
what I came to afterwards is you can clean out the closet, and the plant medicines help you clean out the closet tremendously if you're willing to let go, if you're willing to heal. That's the important part, because sometimes it's not a pleasant experience.
That's right.
Oftentimes it's beyond ecstatic, but you have to be willing to let go. So in this closet, once you start cleaning stuff out, you get rid of the boxes, you get rid of the, you know, books from when you were a kid, you get rid of the collection of, memorabilia, whatever it is, you get rid of all this stuff, but way in the back of that closet, and it's a very deep closet. This one wasn't, but it's a very deep closet, metaphorically speaking. There's a box with a combination on it, chains, padlocks, a sign that says, caution, do not open this, whatever you do. Okay, so the plant medicines that are, like, we're going to go there. We're going to open that up. And the chains come off, the combination gets
Mhm.
twisted, the padlocks get unlocked, and with a great creak, the box opens up. And in that box the thing, is the thing that a person never wants to confront. And the plant medicine helps you look at that, give a few chuckles, and it's like, that's been ruining your life? You're letting that ridiculous little thing in that box ruin your life? Not ruin your life, but ruin your experience of your life.
Mhm.
You know, it's the thing that makes people, you know, overeat, over-exercise, under-exercise, watch too much television, um, do drugs, whatever it is, all of these coping mechanisms in order to not face what's in that box.
Right.
And that's where plant medicines come in so valuably, because I believe through things like psychotherapy, you could clean out some of the closet. You can understand why you have that collection in the closet. You can, understand why you don't want to open up that box. You can understand a lot of stuff. But plant medicines take you out of the realm of understanding and into the realm of direct experience. That's why I think they're such valuable tools. And they go back so far. They go back into cultures where there was no moral majority saying these are bad.
Right.
They said these are sacred, these
Yeah.
are holy. And there aren't too many cultures that I know of where there isn't some sacred medicine that not only was used for healing, but was used for finding direction of the culture, that was used
Hmm.
for development of art, of music, of poetry, of beauty, bringing beauty into the world. So sometime in our past, medieval times in Europe, some point way back there, somebody said these are bad.
Right.
Why were they bad? Because they gave people freedom, and when people have freedom, they can't be controlled. When you free up the mind, when you free up the soul, when you free up the inner world, it's no longer easy for somebody to, let's say, clandestinely control you,
Right.
and even not clandestinely control you, because there's a story I heard about this sect of Hasidic Jews that were from a very holy village in Europe. And I don't know if this is true or not, I have to say. I heard it. Um, when they were being led into the gas chambers, they were, stripped of their clothing, men and women and children, and all naked in this room. They know they're going to die. And what they chose to do was to sing and dance as long as they could,
Wow.
to pray, to be in joy, to not let even that horror take away their experience. Most of us have trouble getting if we get cut off on the freeway.
And that is true. That and
You
and
know,
that brings me to, you know, the value of understanding deeper, even in the work that you're doing specifically, because I do feel like, we are on a path of almost like circular motion, right? Everything is happening so quickly and time is passing so quickly, but it's because people can't settle into the present and be present,
yeah,
right?
and the
And
present is infinite.
yeah, and I feel like, yeah, as people age, as things get more stressful, more tasks, more this, more that, I feel like they lose focus as time continues and they can't get it back.
Yeah,
Yeah. I remember reading, I did a lot of work back in, well, almost 30 years ago now. Goodness. With regards to some of the work that Eckhart Tolle had done, right? Just with regards to being in the present, living in the present, your mind being present. You've mentioned it, and it's so important. And I think a lot of people miss that.
yeah. It's so easy to miss because it's the tiniest thing in the universe, as well as the largest thing in the universe. Because a good question to think about is, when has now not existed?
Right?
You know,
It always exists.
I think it was Rumi who said, we don't travel through time, time travels through us.
Hmm.
So we're on this journey, theoretical, apparently from the past to the future. But the past is nothing but memories. The future is nothing but expectations, good or
Hmm.
bad. Neither one of those would exist if I was to pull up a word from the Vedic philosophies. I would say that's what Maya is. The way that the mind reacts with the past and the future. And so coming into the present is perhaps the greatest challenge a human being has, because we're not trained to do it. We don't know how to do it.
Right.
It's like, be here now. Great. What does that mean? What does it mean to be in the moment? And that is a lifetime work. The word people like to talk about enlightened
Hmm.
masters. And I took a course in I Ching many, many years ago with the late Dennis Karcher. And one thing that he said, he was a scholar of ancient Old Chinese, not just Old Chinese, not just ancient Chinese, but ancient Old Chinese. And he said that the translation that people have made from that, where they use the word enlightened, ed, was not the correct translation. The correct translation was enlightening.
Hmm.
which denotes immediately that there's no goal. It's a process. So there's no like, I made it. I'm in the moment now. I am in the moment. Oops, no, you're not. I am in light. No, you're not. Because you can't really put words to that because it's experience
Yeah.
for which we don't have the correct words, if there ever can be. So it's bringing focus into the present moment. In the ayahuasca tradition, I believe it's called Yarandin, the exact moment of now. And in that exact moment of now exists literally all good. Exists joy, exists healing, exists miracle, exists love, exists light, exists everything that the human soul craves without even knowing that it craves it most of the time. If we're craving an experience of joy, we might think, well, okay, I'll go to Disneyland and have my experience of joy there.
Right.
It won't work.
No. No, definitely not.
Does that
Uh,
make sense?
it totally makes sense.
Okay.
And talking about, the just the Chinese medicine and going into that culture and kind of immersing into that culture that's been around for, again, longer than I even can imagine. There's definitely a difference between, and I think as we age, we realize this. There's knowledge, right? There's knowledge that we learn. There's things that we theory, right? But there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? And I think that that's something in the healing space that's really important. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's one of the Rumi-ish poems, a poem that was created in the spirit of Rumi, where it said basically that two kinds of knowledge. One of them comes from the outside to the inside. That one you get graded on. You can rise
Hmm.
in the world with, you can fall in the world without it. But it comes from the outside to the inside. And then he says, but there's another one that comes from the inside to the outside. And he calls it a springbox overflowing. Wisdom is there, beauty is there, love is there, joy is there, peace is there. And so that one is the quality of a person's soul. From the outside to the inside is the quality of the person's mind.
Mm,
From the inside to the outside is a quality of soul and spirit. And I I would I would bet that there's people listening to this right now who are saying, "Well, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. It's
right.
impossible." And my response to that is going to be, well, a little bit is infinitely more than nothing.
Very true.
You know, taking a step on the path, doing one thing to help bring yourself into the present can start a cascade that leads to more and more and more and more of that experience. You may need a teacher, you may need to do some practices, you may need to change your diet, you may need acupuncture, you may need plant medicines, you may need none of the above. But the opportunities begin to open up once a person decides that that experience of joy within is what they want.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, again, I feel like that box and those chains exist for so many people that they don't even realize that there's more to it that they can feel, right?
Yeah.
I feel like people feel so trapped sometimes where there are things that people can do to be able to get to that next step. And I think it's very valid where you said, just do one part of it, just do one
Yeah.
thing, just start the process. Because I feel like so many times it's all or nothing. Well, if I can't do it all, then I'm just not going to do it at all. Right. It's like dieting and things like that. Right. It's like I'm going to do it all or I'm not. And then that's why people end up back where they started, because the expectations that they set out are too high, and they're setting themselves up to fail before they even start.
Yeah, not just too high, but unrealistic.
Yeah.
I would almost say impossible.
Mm-hmm.
If I have an experience tomorrow that leaves me feeling enlightened, it's going to go. It's going to fade.
Right.
It'll be gone. And if I'm really intellectually adept and morally a little bit lacking, maybe, I might start a religion around my experience, or a cult or something. How many of these religions and cults start with somebody doing something that gave them the experience that they then have to teach everybody else, but in the meantime they've lost the experience themselves.
Right. Mm.
It's endemic to that particular branch of humanity. It seems,
Mm-hmm.
how if I hike every day, almost every day. I'm fortunate to live next to a hiking trail,
Amazing.
and I take advantage of it, and what I've noticed is that there'll be times when I'm exercising, right? Turn on the juice, go fast,
Mm-hmm.
move fast. And then there's times, especially certain points of the year, where I just stop and I start looking at the flowers and the plants and really studying the nature that I'm by the side of the trail. And I have a beautiful experience doing that. And I like to take pictures of things.
Mm-hmm.
What I've noticed is that I see things along this trail that nobody else sees,
Right.
because I'm taking the time to see it. And do I get anything out of it? I get the satisfaction of experience, but the same way, if somebody is choosing to go on a healing journey, healing hero journey,
Mm-hmm.
it's very similar. If somebody's choosing to go on the healing journey, they absolutely need to pay attention to the moment and not have expectations. How many people join a gym on January 2nd?
Oh boy.
Guilty?
A lot. A lot do.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
do. And then they
You
never
join a
come
gym. I
back.
joined a gym on January 2nd, go like maybe 4 or 5 times, and it's like, oh, still the same side. I'm quitting.
It's true.
Not working.
It's true. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it's the people that go daily with no expectations that over time get incredible benefit from the work they're doing.
Right.
I feel that on my hikes. I've hit kind of a magic, mileage point on my daily hikes,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't do it a year ago.
Yeah.
I could do it 4 years ago, but I hurt my knees,
Mm.
and I've been on a recovery process with that.
Yeah.
But it's only the fact that I practiced every day without expectations in the moment. I have long-term expectations, obviously,
Yeah.
but without expectation in the moment, that allowed me to heal my body, gave me the space to heal my body. Same thing with healing the heart. People love seminars, right? I've
Yeah.
taught them. You probably have taught them. People love them.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the
Absolutely.
seminar, have some kind of peak experience, ideally,
Mm-hmm.
or an understanding or a realization. And, a certain percentage of people think they've had it. That was it. That's all they need to
Right.
know. And missing the fact that the healing is perpetual. The learning is
Right.
perpetual. And for me, that's so beautiful, because I don't want to be ED'd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be enlightened. I don't want to be realized. I
Yeah.
want every moment of my existence, for however long that existence is, to be a process of growth, to be a process of learning, to be a process of healing,
Yeah.
and a process of appreciation of life. Can I, if I ever reached a place where I'm appreciating life as much as life can be appreciated? No. Beautiful. I have the opportunity to grow into that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think so many we overlook that,
Yeah. It's
right?
so easy to overlook because we're a goal-oriented society.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
get, and we have definite markers in society that are present and available and visible to all.
Mm-hmm.
Do I live in I'm not saying living in a shack is that bad, but do I live in a shack or do I live in a mansion?
Right.
If my goal was a mansion, there will be a moment when I'm living in the mansion. I've achieved my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a Honda or a Lambo?
Mm-hmm.
There's a definite, if I put my keys into the Lambo and that I've signed my life away to, I know that I've made it. But
Right.
these inner markers are much more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
They're much more subtle than that. There's no place you can look inside, or that I've seen that you can look inside and say, well, I've made it. I've
Right.
gone. It's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
I don't want my life to be as good as it gets.
No, absolutely
I don't.
not.
Then it's all downhill.
That right? That's it, very true. And
Yeah.
I find that interesting too as people age. Being in my 50s, as people get into that that next decade, right? Our heads automatically, well, I'm just getting older. Or I can't do that anymore but you can. There are so many experiences that are still awaiting your presence, right? It's not like life is all behind you now that you're 60, 70, 80, whatever it is. That's not the case. And I think we get stuck in that mindset sometimes.
Yeah, as long as I'm seeing green grass and brown and not brown roots, I'm doing good.
Right? I agree. I agree 100%. So I know you have a copy of your book there. So trust and forgive the medicine of your life. Let's talk about that. You called it a reflective guide. Talk a little bit about the book and just kind of some of the ways that people will be able to really embrace and use that information.
Yeah. It's an experiential book. And, I go through kind of a journey from why things aren't working, how they can work, what to do to make them work. And then a few stories about people, mythical stories about what it's like when it works.
Mm.
And I don't want to give away too much, but
No, you can't.
it's,
You can't spoil it.
yeah, yeah. Everybody dies at the end.
No, no, my goodness.
Spoilers. What was that show?
Hmm.
Spoiler, Doctor Who. Spoilers. It's I don't know, even just the way that it's put together.
Hmm.
Uh,
There we go. Beautiful.
I can't believe I did this.
Is it a bit surreal for you when you're opening your own book and flipping the pages?
Still, yeah. And that it
Amazing.
has 300 and something pages, and that it has the
Wow.
end at the end, and unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. So, there's the basic parts are no, just read it.
Okay.
Just read it. Just
That
read
then
it.
we'll start, right? We'll just read it. That is what it's all
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I mean, the first part of it is my journey
Yep.
and my reflections, and then the second part of it is more talking a little bit more about ayahuasca and plant medicines,
Mm,
and the third part is how do we pull this all together into a life that
amazing.
works?
I love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
Yeah, I'm shocked that I actually completed it, I have to say. Before I wrote this, my limit on writing was maybe 2 or 3 pages.
Yep.
And those were 2 or 3
Wow.
pages where I thought I was doing really good writing 3 pages,
Mhm.
um, except for things like theses and stuff like that. But,
Yeah.
my creative writing was non-existent. I would journal and I'd write down, today was a good day. Today was not a good day. I'm exaggerating just a little bit.
Of course.
But
Of
the
course.
process of writing a book was amazing for me in
Mm.
that I started the book right after COVID started.
Mm.
My
Mhm.
my first COVID thing was I read all 18 or something Dune books,
Yep.
because I was bored stiff. I didn't have any friends around. There was nothing I could do,
Mhm.
and I just started reading
Right.
these books. And then I finished. I'm like, well, what now? Write your book? No. No, write your book. No. Write your book. No. Then I got insomnia, really bad insomnia.
Oh,
And I was waking
no.
up at 2 or 3 o'clock every morning, lying in bed, wondering what to do. And this voice in the back of my head was saying, get up and write your book.
Mhm.
And I don't know how long it took, but I finally got up and started writing the book. And I wrote it until I finished it. And it's,
Wow.
not something that I'm putting a great deal of ego on. Um, you know. But I wrote a book, and
That's
the people that have
amazing.
read this book are finding their lives changing.
That's amazing.
Not from the exercise, because there's no real exercises in it. It's
Mhm.
not a how-to book,
Mhm.
but it's a journey book.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, and I want to talk about your platform. So,
Mm.
heartfeather.com is your website. Tell people how, like, what could they expect? They visit your website. What can they expect? How do they work with you? How do things go once they hit that website and start learning more about you?
It's a very simple website. I used to have a very complicated website, and I got tired of it and shut
Mm.
it down, and I have a very simple website. Heart Feather, to begin with, why Heart Feather?
Mhm.
And it comes out of Egyptian mythology, or cosmology, I should say, that when a human being dies, they're taken in front of Osiris, who takes their heart out
Mhm.
and gives it to Ma'at, who has a scale, a balance beam scale.
Mhm.
And Ma'at puts your heart on one side and puts a feather on the other side. And if your heart weighs more than the feather, you don't get to go on to the heavenly realms.
Hmm.
So if a human being dies carrying the weight of their karma, let's call it, of
Yeah.
their past, of the unresolved issues, of the backpack full of bricks, they some people believe that when you leave physical form, that stuff stays with you in some way
Hmm.
as an energetic patterning. So Heart Feather came to me one night at 2 o'clock in the morning
When you couldn't sleep.
when I couldn't sleep. And, so it's the idea that I want the work that I do to help people find a way within themselves to make their heart as light as a feather and to empty out that backpack of bricks. And so what's on that site are some of my talks, some of my writings. There's a link to my Substack where I've done a lot of writing.
Nice.
A link to some podcasts I've done, some videos I've done,
Mhm.
and also a way to make an appointment to work with me.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes.
Wow. I I love that. So heartfeather.com, we'll have that in the description, of course. Richard, thank you so much for sharing today. This was wonderful information and just so many important things for people to understand that there's more than the ED, right? We want to keep experiencing, keep evolving, and keep being present in the now for sure.
Thank you. Pleasure to
So,
be here. Pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. For those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you give this episode a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you're watching, or should I say listening, if you're listening on your favorite podcast host, we're happy that you are here. And make sure you give this episode a like. And I will see you next time. Thanks for joining us today on the Human Optimization Podcast. Episode technical production is by Grace Sylvester and guest booking by Stu Tate. Want to learn more? Visit Pitel-Killah.com for incredible free resources to supercharge your journey to becoming the best version of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to the Human Optimization Podcast and follow me on social media at Pitel-Killah.